you think because you've got a degree, you're going to get a job. Yet we find people with the high qualifications that aren't getting jobs. So it's realizing that entitlement of succession or succession planning, building stages, this linear plan is kind of out of the window completely. This almost like bubble of challenges that every single person in our generation is experiencing. Some of the most brilliant artistic minds can never come out because they can't afford to leave the Gasi. They can't afford to leave the Lali. There's a group of people who are all looking for things to change. It's cool to see how art can also be helpful. As discouraging as the economy feels and like all of this thing and there's no money, whatever, there's people. I think when you remember how important this whole thing is, it's just about connecting with people. And my perspective has changed. I'm still as ambitious and I'm still as driven, but I think now if I'm not doing this with my boys, I want to be doing it with people who could turn into my boys. And if you're not then either of those categories, I'm not trying to work with you. I don't care how good you are. And that changed everything because that was the first thing. Get out of your self-centered ambition. I don't even care anymore about being this biggest filmmaker ever. I just want to make the things I want to make with the people I care about and just get it out to as many people as possible.
Today, we skip the origin story. We're talking about making real work with limited budget, keeping ownership, and using relationships the right way. By the end of this episode, you will know how to make your project work with limited budgets. You'll have a map when it comes to networking and growing your relationships in the industry. And you'll be able to understand what happened in the life of Abo Booi over the last year and what's to come in the next. Abo Booi, let's cook. So it's been a year.
Mm-hmm. You're
been
saying
a
it's
whole
been a year since I've been on this podcast.
Yeah.
This is exactly a year today.
I don't think it's exactly a year, but roughly a year.
Okay.
Yeah. So the last one we did was in 2024, and now it's
Yeah.
2025.
2025, big 2025.
Do you remember anything from our last episode?
I mean, just because Sipo recently, shout out Super Sipo Vanti, great photographer, filmmaker.
Super
Just because, yeah, shout outs are always just
Like,
he reposted something recently that we in the conversation that we had that I was like, oh, I was really smart when I said that. So,
you were. I guess you're gonna find out today. Like,
it's just gone downer and downer. I'm sorry.
for real?
What are you talking about?
Okay, no. I'm asking if things have gone down.
No. I
saying
thought you were saying I
this.
said something smart. I was like, this time it
Hypothetically.
might be not the same level of high class intellect.
Nah, I feel like it's gonna be higher.
Higher.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. Because like back then you didn't have all the experience and the lessons that happened over the last year, right?
And the trauma.
And the trauma. All right, tell us more.
Yeah. The camera's on. Okay. No, I'll tell you more. I mean, in the course of the conversation.
Okay. So
I mean, trauma is a natural part of life, though. Wouldn't you agree?
it is a natural part of life, and it's also a necessary part of life.
Necessary, though?
It is necessary. It depends, like, what you're referring to when you say trauma, because I think we use that term quite loosely nowadays.
No, like trauma, psychological things that affect you mentally, the physical or mental kind of trauma.
Look, if I look at my traumas and I think about them, a lot of those things actually like made me grow and made me stronger. So I wouldn't say it's necessary, but I would say that there is a positive side to it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I think if you get through the trauma the right way, the best you can, then there's always a positive
The way you
side.
deal with it is what's important. Because trauma, just as much as it can build you, can also break you.
Yeah. But it's also never too late to be rebuilt. And I think people think that like if the trauma has been, if it's too long ago, I was a kid and now I'm 50 years old, I'm not dealing with that. It's too late now.
But that's
Never too late. You have to.
That's a decision though, right?
I mean, a decision based on the trauma.
Okay.
Right? Wouldn't you agree that maybe the extent of the trauma also affects how deeply one would bury it?
Are you saying that like the trauma can control your decisions?
Yes, absolutely.
Interesting.
Like,
I don't know if I agree with that.
You don't think so?
Nah. I like to believe that my mind is stronger. Like,
but I think that's a paradigm. I think I agree on that for you. But I think I know people who have been in similar situations, or maybe not even similar, but haven't come out with the same level of like, okay, but kind of thing. You know, you've said things to me that I was like, I've never heard anyone say, find a positive outlook on this.
Serious.
Yeah, bro. Like, I mean, it's obviously a really deep chat because there's deep things you're
Yeah, we
talking
dived
about.
right into the conversation, eh? No, but I love, but like what, like,
Like the things you said to me about, uh, like the passing of your father. Like when we had conversations now recently about that, and I was like, hectic. Like it takes a certain kind of person to be able to take something that is very heavily like an anchor emotionally and use that to kind of like become a better swimmer. And I think it, like you said, ultimately in the beginning, that's a choice. And I think you've made that choice. But I do think there's people who are affected, their decisions are affected by trauma. And I think that's something that, like, to bring it full circle, that's something that I like to write about in the things that I make on screen.
stay tuned for the short. We did that whole conversation just to plug the short.
Just to plug the short.
Nah. But like, okay, talking about trauma and like the past year, like, would you say that there's been things that you've learned this year, things that worked out? I mean, just to kind of refresh your mind, right? A lot of the last episode, we spoke about the embassy, we spoke about Cishi, spoke about Will. So like going back now a year later, what would you say like has kind of worked out for you in the last year? What hasn't worked out? What have you had to let go of?
I think it's a very weird thing, but it's like kind of coming to terms with, it's not like an acceptance or a complacency at all, but it's coming to terms with the state of what things are in terms of our world and our economy and how things just generally are in the diaspora and especially in the arts. Sustainability and like it's completely like unfortunately not a realistic thing for every artist at every point of their career. And so the same way I've been through, dips and bounds, is the same way the artists will go through dips and bounds, and all of those things affect the ecosystem and everything. So, someone would think that that something is sustainable for them, but it's only sustainable for the 2 years, but then it changes completely. And I've found like, I've had like beautiful experiences in the past 5 years that have just changed in so many different ways, in ways I couldn't like understand. Good ways, bad ways, but necessary ways all the less, nonetheless. But I think it's between last year and now, it's radicalization.
Okay, that's an interesting word.
I have to use that word specifically because there's been a continuum of realizations of the actual true reality of how difficult this thing really is. And it's not even just the arts. Like I have friends who are doctors, bro, who are lawyers, who have fought more difficult battles for finding work than I have in ways that I'm like, that doesn't make sense. So if we all thought that this foundation and this safety net that everyone had isn't really a safety net, then there's really no difference. I mean, there's obviously functional differences, but there's no difference in how one perceives that, other than that same resilience that I see in like my doctor friends who studied 7 years and now, they are doctors and now they're looking for work, but they're still grinding as hard as they can to upskill themselves so they can find those job opportunities that shouldn't be so difficult to find, but that's the reality, So it's realizing that everyone is kind of in this bubble where the emotional and kind of mental like fortitude and radicalization of direction actually has become a necessary means of having anything happen. There's no handouts unless you're really privileged. There's no certainty, even in the most stable jobs. There's no absolute surety that the same thing that happened last year is going to happen this year. And I think accepting that has made it very sobering and very kind of like, it's been a push and a pull where it's like, okay, if that's the reality of it, the only thing I can change is now myself and how I express things and make things and what I make and how I make them with the people who I care about, whether they're in this way or that way. And that's been really exciting and kind of like a weight off the chest in some ways, because of just a kind of shift of like, I don't know, it feels like you kind of have to let go of this what's the word when you expect something from
expectation.
yeah. What's that thing called? Like
An expectation.
Yeah, an entitlement. There's an
Oh.
entitlement that I feel life or the economy has created for us. You think because you've got a degree, you're gonna get a job. That you feel as though that entitles you to a job. Yet we find people with the high qualifications that aren't getting jobs. So it's realizing that entitlement of succession or succession planning, building stages, this linear plan is kind of out of the window completely. Now it's about like that same doctor, that same lawyer, that same filmmaker, that same artist making something new that creates opportunities for other people to grow as well, and building something that somehow becomes its own ecosystem. And so a lot of consulting companies and people making businesses with side hustles and like, I think it's been really interesting to just see how quickly things can shift. And, you know, as much as it can quickly shift down, it's like there's equally as much of a potential for it to shift up. And that's, if you can kind of focus on that, then it's like, okay, now we're kind of unlocking like cracking the code, you know? So I think it's been a tougher year this year than it has been last year. So therefore, I feel now at the end of the year, I feel tougher than I was last year, but not discouraged. More encouraged, I would think, say, than anything.
Okay.
Kind of like a new angle of things.
So what I'm hearing is like this year is a very much of a molding year, like a shifting in perspective, sort of like growing pains in a way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same way kind of like as an entrepreneur as well?
I think there's so many different facets to what you've mentioned. So like the one facet is the economic situation. I do think this year was very difficult globally and also specifically in South Africa from an economic perspective. So no matter if you're a doctor or a film director, everyone felt something. But in the same breath, there's other elements as well. So like, I think because of where we are in our age and our career, like we just came back from our 10-year school evening. And like one of the takeaways for me, shout out to all the King's School kids.
Salt and light.
Let's go. So one of the things for me for that was like, I felt, I'm so glad I went to that because I think when you're in school, you have like, it's like your yardstick. You're able to measure where you are, like based on how many marks you get if you pass the year or whatever. And then once you go out of school into varsity, it becomes a little bit more blurry. Like you have different years in varsity and there's like a system of progression, but it's not as like stringent. Like you'll have people that are 30 that are doing first year, but you know, but there's still a structure.
Yeah.
And then when you leave varsity, there's no structure. Unless you go into a company, I guess in a company, you could have some level of like hierarchy, which can give you a sense, but like it's much less like structured. Yeah. So it's difficult to gauge where you are. And going to the school reunion made me feel at peace because I'm like, we all like in the same boat trying to figure out life. Yeah. So I think that age thing, I think when you reach this age, you start to realize like how difficult things are. Because I think when we were younger, you view things through rose-tinted glasses and you have this idea of what you want to do. And the idea of it's always nice and makes you feel good.
Yeah.
But the implementation of it is like very different.
Yeah.
So that's the other elements, like the age thing. As you progress, you start to realize the reality of the situation and how like our context affects so many different things, including our careers. But then also beyond that, there's another element that I think is important, and it's the entrepreneurial element, which is what you're asking. Bro, as you were speaking, one of the things that came into my mind was Airbnb. Might sound so random, but like Airbnb is a multi-billion-dollar valued company. Yeah. And when COVID hit, that ship was sinking. So that taught me a lesson with like, it doesn't matter how big you've made it. You can own one of the biggest companies in the world and something uncontrollable can happen and put that all at risk. Yeah. Which is kind of what you're talking about as well. It's like you're not really in control. These natural ups and downs will happen no matter if you're broke or if you're a billionaire CEO,
Yeah.
you will still have to deal with that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so the ebbs and the flows, I think they happen to all of us.
Exactly.
And I think that's what I'm hearing you've gained from this year. Like,
Yeah, they happen to all of us. Like I think it's yeah. And it's also I've also gained an appreciation for seeing how other people's resilience looks like to them, and how that can also be inspiring to me. And I think because it's difficult for everyone, and like there's like I'm saying, like I honestly think like if we're keeping the buck, there's a many industries I feel that shouldn't have an unemployment issue. I think essential services should never have an unemployment issue. I think they should always be looking for more places because there's so many people who aren't being served in these hospitals, government, or even private that are understaffed, and just puts a strain on that. I feel that any emergency, any medical fire, ENT, that shouldn't be an industry I find that should have any issues because of how many people need them and how much South Africa specifically needs them. And so then it brings a lot of like an understanding to me as well, where it's like, I think it's just like also rationalizing what I do and where I am in the world. It's like understanding that how different, there's like so many parallel different levels, like difficulties that are equal, not the same thing, but like in parallel difficult across the genres of people and like interacting with people outside of my own career and my own ecosystem and like meeting them. It's like so interesting to see how almost uniform there's like this almost like bubble of challenges that every single person in our age group, in our generation is experiencing, even internationally, which has been really like disappointing, but also like empowering because it's like, empowered by the fact that there's a group of people who are all looking for things to change. Disappointed that you see people who you care about or people you don't even know suffering or financial struggles, knowing that like some of the most brilliant artistic minds can never come out because they can't afford to leave the Kasi or they can't afford to leave the Lali. So, or even the suburbs nowadays, like how crazy is like,
yeah, no, that's crazy.
so I think it's realizing how uniform this bubble is, but it's also cool to see how many people are also trying to make a difference and change, and like seeing how I can also be involved outside of my own bubble of the arts, to make a difference also in whatever that looks like. And I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out. But it's cool to see how arts can also be helpful and create jobs. And I think spending the past year working with my friends on things however possibly I can. Like almost every one of my friends, like almost all of us actually, we've worked together this year on something. And whether it's a pitch, like how many pitches? Like 2-3 pitches this year. What happened to
I
that?
feel like this year is just a blur.
I was actually what happened to that pitch that we were doing with the car one with the trucks? We'll talk about it. Not the first car truck one, the second truck.
Oh, yeah. So much has happened since then, dude.
This just disappeared.
Yeah.
As things happen.
I think for us, like as business people, you kind of like even the thing I'm working on now, my mind is already on the next, whatever the next thing is beyond that. So like sometimes just, and because there's so many things happening, just, I don't know, like I don't know, I feel like my attention right now is so limited that it can only be like in this area or another area. So like if you're talking to me in this podcast about that pitch, there's no capacity to like go back into the box and find what happened there. Exactly. Like, but like talking about that, you mentioned something about like the creative minds in the Kasi or the Lalis that cannot be unlocked with like finances. Like, but how do you navigate that, dude? Because like you'll speak to a whole bunch of people that have ideas. And actually, I saw this video online the other day of like this guy comparing like a first time entrepreneur and a second time entrepreneur, which I think is like, it's a weird way to frame it, but I do get the message he's trying to put across where like he was saying like the first time entrepreneur would say, I have an idea, but I'll only tell it to you if you sign an NDA. And then the second time entrepreneur is like, bruh, take the idea because it doesn't matter. Like the idea is not the thing that matters. The implementation of it is what matters.
Crazy.
And I feel like I fall a little more in that second
Interesting.
box where like I used to keep a lot of ideas to myself
Mm.
and I wouldn't share them. But at this point, like I can't do all the ideas first and foremost. But I
Exactly.
also know that like take the idea.
Yeah.
Let's see what you can do.
Yeah. Are you
Like-
gonna do something with it?
Exactly. Because the idea is kind of the easy part. The implementation
bro.
is difficult.
Is the
And
easiest part, I think.
I think with implementation, it requires money.
Mm.
But I also think that people let money be the limitation as well in the same breath. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm.
So, like,
Same.
what are your thoughts on that?
Tell me, what do you mean by? So say that phrase one more time.
You need money to
Mhm.
make things happen,
Yes.
but sometimes people use the lack of money
No.
as the excuse that it's not happening.
Circular argument, Your Honor.
Do you think there's any truth in what I'm saying?
There's
Does that
truth in
make
what you're
sense?
saying, but I think it's so subjective,
Okay.
and like there's people, because I honestly think there is honestly a limit to how much you can do without resources, and if it's not resources, then it's somebody else. It's social capital.
Mm.
So I think if you took two people in the same financial position and you put one in Joburg and one in Gabera, and you ask them to build some kind of like business of some sort, right? The guy in Joburg is going to have more likely a chance to find more seed funding than the guy in Gabera, purely because Joburg is the hub of business in South Africa. The difference between them is purely where they're from. So the limitation now has nothing to do with their intention and the idea. Maybe he finds somebody online or he uses LinkedIn and something, and he finds a way to get that connection, which then it's social capital, which is a different conversation. But I think there's factors that do affect certain people that add certain limitations that make it a reasonable thing. And then there's certain places where it's like you actually aren't doing your side of it. I think it's a push and a pull. Like I can't complain that my movies aren't being made if I'm not making short films and pitching them to make my feature film. You know, like if I don't do the first thing, the second thing doesn't happen. But I need to do the first thing all the way to the max. And I think some people think if I do I'm not even going to try to do the first thing because the second thing isn't going to happen.
Well, yeah, it's not guaranteed.
It's not guaranteed. And it's obviously the less you do it, if you don't do it, it's 100% not guaranteed. But if you try it, you have more of a chance of it still not being guaranteed, but a better chance. So I don't know. I think, yeah.
Do you make the short films now purely because you want to make bigger films?
Yes. Yes. I make short films because that's the capacity I have to make now. And if I could make them longer form, I would make them longer form. So if using them to create the next step to get to the longer form, that's the goal. So yeah, I would say yes.
Okay.
You know, but I need to do that first in order to get there because there's no government handout. There's no family member who I know is related to, Francis Ford Coppola that can get me $1 million. Like, I'm actually gonna have to figure out how to get to the next step somehow, but it requires that first faith step, and the Bible even speaks about it. Faith without works is dead. You have to have the actions behind the faith for your part of the equation for God to be able to step in. God can do whatever He wants, but He needs your part too. And I think we all have a responsibility to step up as far as you can. But I also acknowledge that, like, there's a certain limitation. Like, there's this video of this guy that was that interview when he was like on TV, and the guy's like, "So, what exactly do you need for your business?" He's like, "I need $2 million. I need 2 million rand cash." He's like, "No, but like, you need to develop." He's like, "No. There's no more business development that I need to upscale. The only way we take the next step is to scale, and I need 2 million." And I agree with him. I'm like. And that guy can argue, oh, maybe you need to find the right connection that can help you leverage. Either way, at the end of the day, the equation needs that 2 million right there. And the company isn't scaling without that 2 million right there. So there's realities where it's like, It's only so much you can manifest with the limitations. Sometimes you actually need the cold hardcore. That's it. And that's the reality of the world we live in, you know?
Yeah. I think it's funny enough, he actually was going to be a guest.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And let us know if you want to see him, like, you can reach out and make it happen.
That's crazy.
But I also do get what you're saying, but there's a fine line between if you have the capacity to utilize the cash versus you don't. And I think that comes from what I would refer to as, what's the word now? Critical mass. You have to reach critical mass to be able to fully utilize those resources efficiently or effectively.
Okay.
So the critical mass is like the short films. Every time you shoot a short film, you run into challenges and you find ways to overcome those challenges. You learn how to use the equipment. You learn how to manage people. You learn how to deploy the resources. Even though you're not doing it on a large scale, you're doing it on a smaller scale. So it's giving you a skill set that's required so that by the time you get the bigger resources, you've got the systems in place, and you've got the skill to deploy the resources efficiently, which means that the risk of giving you those resources is much less than the risk that would be required giving the resources to someone who hasn't shot any short films and hasn't proven that there are people that will watch it.
Yeah.
So that's where I think a lot of the time as younger people, we kind of miss that part. But in the same sense, I think a lot of the time there are people that have developed the skills and reached the critical mass, but they haven't yet gotten the opportunity, or sometimes don't even get the opportunity, land up living their whole life until they get to the point where it doesn't make sense for them to keep doing it anymore. And then that critical mass just kind of goes to waste.
Yeah.
So like,
well, but what's like, you said that it's a fine line. How do you define where that line is, you know?
I think we need to define it for ourselves.
So it's like a subjective.
Because you don't know what you don't know. And that's also where I think the mentorship thing comes in place, because there'll be someone out there who did get the funding when they reached critical mass and they knew what that meant for them. So speaking to someone like that would be able to give you a lot more perspective in terms of like what that looks like. Because before you do it, you don't know. So you kind of have to, the way that I always approach it is you kind of have to just overshoot as much as, or not even overshoot, you just have to go as hard as you can and gather as much mass as you can, because you don't know what the critical mass point is. So you just rather overshoot than undershoot.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the way I view it.
I hear you. I agree with that, actually. I mean, yeah, there's no argument that it's like, yes, I absolutely agree with that. And I think that's maybe people aren't doing that. I think our generation is lazy. No, I don't think that's true. I think there's just,
I think both are true.
I don't know.
Some people are lazy.
Sure, in every generation.
Other people are putting in the grind and reached the critical mass but haven't gotten the opportunity.
I would say more people are underfunded than lazy.
You think so?
It's a hard statement to say, but I do think so. I just can't justify why. Maybe it's just my optimistic thinking. People are lazy in life, sure, but like, what makes you think that that's not the case?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. But the thing is that I think the reason why I want to like talk about it is because I'd rather encourage people to reach that critical mass, whether they have reached it or not. Like, rather talk about it and hopefully inspire people to do it, or awaken the awareness of the fact that, you know, this thing exists. So that more people do reach the critical mass. Because I think that's what we should be focusing on.
Do you think everyone wants to reach critical mass?
No. Because it's hard. And it sucks.
Do you think we also don't have a culture that endorses critical mass kind of thinking?
And that's also why I was asking these questions when I was talking about this too, because like the culture we have, I agree. I don't think it pushes this kind of narrative. So I don't hear a lot of people talking about stuff like this, which is why I think it's important that we talk
Mm.
about it.
Is it? I mean, there's obviously factors that influence things like apartheid and our history and politics and our economy and things that I think make it very nuanced. So I can't speak on all of those topics when I speak on this conversation. And, um, but I think it almost feels kind of paradoxical where there isn't a culture that encourages critical mass because people don't believe critical mass can be achieved. So that kind of like leans into like the apartheid-esque culture, but also, you know, the state of our economy where how many people do you see being super successful, or we don't have like a middle class, strong enough middle class for it to feel sustainable. The way like in Europe or in America or in Asia, you don't have to be the richest bro to live a nice life. And you're rich, but you can be like a mid-tier player and like your life being learned, you know, like, but here, like you have to kind of be at the top 5 firm, or you have to be the number 1 guy, or be at the Universals or whatever, and or there's no other. Oh, you're out, you know. So I think because there's not enough examples, or there's not even enough of an economy to endorse that, it's like becomes this like paradox where it's like if you want to create people thinking that they can be reach their own critical mass, we need to create an environment where that critical mass can land. But we don't have that because the environment isn't being funded or isn't being endorsed. And like when you see someone who reaches critical mass, someone like Tyler, and then like you see how much more impact or influence or financing she gets from international players than from our own people, it's like it becomes difficult then, because then everything seems like it's, what do they call that thing where you get educated here and then you go
Brain drain.
Yeah, the brain drain thing. So I think we're in this paradox where people don't believe you can reach critical mass. So foundations aren't built for when you do reach critical mass. And so when people do reach critical mass, there's nothing to land on. So they got to go somewhere else where there's a foundation for that critical mass.
So basically what you're saying is we don't have the middle ground to make it seem worth the grind to get to that critical mass.
No, we
Because
don't have.
not enough people succeed. So it's like,
Yeah, people's success is so rare that it actually seems impossible. And because it seems impossible, no one wants to spend money for an industry that doesn't seem like it's fruitful. And when it hits, it hits. Shout out Tyler, shout out Black Coffee, you know, and those are two different stories of someone who spent a short amount of time and someone who spent a very long time to get to their critical mass. And, you know, their endurance and the cards that they were dealt and whatever happened in their life is how they got there. But there's other things that affected them getting there that I think other people might have been affected in more negative ways because of the country we live in. Not to say I know their lives, and I'm not assuming I know what they've been through, but I think no one thinks about being an artist, and no one's parents goes, hey, okay, cool, I know a studio you could work at, or I know that this is a possible thing you could do, or you could work here and or work at this radio station. It's like really like a grind. So I think what happens, and I even once again I say it applies exactly for other industries where only like a few of the best are selected, and even those who are really good, they aren't selected maybe because of the connections they have or they don't have, you know. So our issue is that you look at Korea, and you bring this up so like pertinently, and you see how much, and to me, and you speak about how much their government has invested in the entertainment industry, other than just the foundations of their economy, the entertainment industry, and because of how much of a $1 billion player that could be for so many other people, and because of how big of an export that can be. They understand that, and they've shifted their whole thing. It's become like a national thing, you know, and because we're in a place where our government, we're even struggling with the normal foundational stuff of just running a country. Now you want to give money to like the musicians and the filmmakers. Like, it's hard to say that that's the next step when we have so many other steps to get to. So it's just it's an effect, and it's this paradox that is based on this foundation that no one is building, that is leaking from corruption and our history and apartheid and international interventions. And it's just, it becomes our responsibility then to shift that narrative. like you said, very hard, very challenging, completely driving in the dark, blind, folded with one hand and for a manual car, it's like, and some people are just like, nah, got other fish to
Can't
fry.
blame them, bro.
I can't.
Nah.
But if we were in a place where like there was more, then it would be different. So that's why I would say that it's kind of is that it's a paradox that has come from a lack of fixing we put a bandage on a wound that was festering and now it's infected and we have to cut the whole arm off and we don't know what to do now. Yeah.
Damn, cut the whole arm off. Hectic. I believe we can keep the arm, bro. But even if we do cut the arm off, we still got black coffee. Like, this bro did things, bro. Like, if he can do it, we can do it. I knew.
Yeah.
Like, no,
for
real.
I know. I know you mean on this, but nice. I like that. Yeah, if he can do it.
I love black coffee, bro. This guy is like one of my.
I know how much you respect him.
Bro,
So.
like, I respect this bro. Like, he walked so we can run. And that's also comes to my point, right? So when it comes to like this thing of if it's possible to fix it or not, like it just like we as individuals have to reach our own critical mass to be able to utilize the opportunities that come to us to their full potential. As a country, we need to do the same. So like as a country, we can also reach a critical mass in terms of our entertainment industry. So like someone like Tyler, right?
Yeah.
By her succeeding, we are shifting the narrative of what South Africa is in the eyes of the world. So a lot of the people, if you have conversations with people that come and visit, or if you go overseas and speak to people and you ask them, like, what do you think about South Africa? One of the things they're going to tell you is like, it's dangerous. Like the crime is like,
I think the foreigners who have been here,
I'd say no, not necessarily. I think the people that have been here will tell you something different.
Yeah, right.
I'm talking about people that haven't been here.
Yeah.
That
look at the stats.
Yeah, exactly.
Just the stats are bad.
But not even just it's not even just about the stats. It's just about the narrative of what's being said. So like if you look at like American media, the only thing they're gonna hear about South Africa is maybe Tyler every now and again, but they're probably hearing a lot, like an average person is probably hearing a lot more about like the crime and like this white genocide, this nonsense. Like that's probably what they're hearing and what is shaping their opinion. Meanwhile, South Korea, the reason why I talk about South Korea and why I became aware of what they're doing is because of Gangnam Style. Like that thing went so viral,
stratospheric,
to the point where it shifted the narrative of what South Korea is. Not just that though. That's just one exception. That's their Tyler.
Yeah.
There's so much more. Like if you go on Netflix, you're gonna see all of these South Korean films and series that
BTS
a lot of people,
BTS,
Blackpink, they reached a critical mass through all of those people. So you need to have all of that community working towards that objective to reach the critical mass that makes it less risky to invest in because the narrative around it has shifted.
Yes. But we have all of these things that we could have critical mass elements to that we don't. For example, I was having this conversation with Temba Letuadeva, incredible human being, manager, events organizer. Love you.
Go check out these episodes.
Yeah, said that like so many countries and their governments invest in their exports of major products. Like Nigeria invested in the why is my mind going?
Oil?
No. Music.
Oh.
Afro beats.
Serious?
They invest. I think maybe I could be wrong. But even then, if we look at it again, Korea.
Doesn't Davido have like connections in Nigerian governments or something? Like
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So
they get that money somehow. I don't know
if it's official or not. Like it's the connection.
It's the connections, but it's that investment into that.
But the capital.
Like, if our government, bro, imagine how far Amapiano would be as an international export if we had invested in these crazy festivals here and these crazy lineups that go overseas and these like they made sure that like those like the Brews or Durban Gogo and Two Bunnies, and then when they go into the UK, they're being funded by the South African government, so that when we go there, this is this is like the rugby team going, you know? If we thought about it in that same way, where we're like, okay, this brew is going to the Oscars. We got to treat this like this is an Olympian going somewhere. This guy is going to do, you know? And if we had that same kind of like patriotism towards people and government investment, the way that sports does, and I know that sports probably has its own issues with government investment, don't be all, but if it felt like that, I feel like not only would it increase the morale that we have here, the way that rugby has definitely increased the morale. I can absolutely say without question, Tyler has definitely increased our national morale.
Sometimes it feels like the rugby team is the only thing holding everything together.
They're holding us. Yeah. Ox. I love you.
But yeah, bro, 100%.
So I think if we had that kind of like foresight in our governments, then it would be like Amapiano would be the most popular thing spoken about in every district and the whole of Southern Africa, at least. Not just organically because it's a fire as a genre, but because
money's being invested. It's amplifying the voice of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like we've got the proof of concept. Like
did it by themselves now. Just put money, bro. You don't even need to be involved. Just put.
They reach the critical mass
alone.
So you can further. But also the problem with not investing in it is an opportunity cost, economics principle, where it's like the opportunity still exists whether you invest in it or not. The person who sees it will be the one that invests in it, and they will be the one that reaps the benefit of that investment if it works out. So, one example, Netflix. We've been talking about this African stories, South African stories, and the potential that they hold to be able to be consumed around the world. Like, if you look at the American markets, it's regurgitating the same stories. Where do you find new stories? In places that haven't had the opportunity to tell stories on a global platform yet. And now if you look at Netflix, I was watching a video today, these guys are pumping out our stories into the global network that they have. And they're putting money into developing those movies, to developing those series. They're giving the budgets, which is great because we're giving people opportunities, and it kind of creates that middle ground in a way, right? Because now we know someone who's, shout out to Sishi, who's doing stuff on Netflix platforms. We know, like there's people in our immediate network that we've seen
on screen
do it that are like making it. And I don't know about you, but for me, it's inspiring. For me, it's one of the things that keeps me going because I'm like, damn, this person who's like right next to me can like make it work. Why can't I?
Exactly.
Like, we come from a very similar place. So it gives you that middle ground that you were talking about. The problem, though, is that all of those profits that are coming from those movies are going to America. Because we lost the opportunity. That was the opportunity cost of not investing. The cost was someone else coming in and now extracting the resources.
Same thing with
Tyler, with our actors, with our production companies, these guys are generating profits for platform like Netflix, and that money is now leaving the country. So just as much as they're investing, it's also leaving. I'd be very curious to see what the net effect of that is. Because it's possible that we could actually be getting a good deal where the amount of money that Netflix is spending creating the films is more than the money that they're making, so that we're actually like getting money pumped into our economy.
And that it does do that.
Exactly. So we do have to acknowledge that.
Sure.
But in the same breath, the profits are no longer in our control as a South African nation.
One could argue, though, that because of the advantage they have from their own scaling at whatever level, if you didn't go with them, the product wouldn't have the same amount of profit because it wouldn't have the same resource push behind it.
Yeah.
So we're fighting against, it's an unfair fight already. It's a David and Goliath, although
Wait, just explain what you mean by that.
If I take my film that's very good and I push it by myself, maybe in South Africa, and I try to take it internationally without any major international platform, like a foundational one that's already been established, which is a streamer. And streamers are owned by Europeans and the West. So if I take it out and not take it to any of those streamers, it's unlikely that it will be amplified to as many people as it would need to be.
Yes.
Even if you say go to YouTube, YouTube is still owned by an American company.
Yes.
So there's no amount of money that makes that profit 100% yours unless you own the distribution, which is the streaming. which is having our own African streamer, which we need. But the profit that it makes, so the argument then becomes, if you do this without me, you might be profitable. But if you do this with me, even if I give you 20% of this, that 20% will be 200 times more than how much you would have made by yourself. And that's always the deal that they swing. That's how labels get it on. They're like, it's cool. We'll take 80%, but you'll still be making 10 million dollars. And you're like, okay, well, it's generational wealth. But they're now making $1 billion, because your song is streaming so much. And so I don't know.
That's why people get taken advantage of.
Yeah, but like, what's the solution? Because we don't have the infrastructure to compete with Netflix and Amazon and,
So the thing about Netflix, I think we have to separate the concepts of Netflix into two different camps, right? The first one is the streaming platform, the access to the market, right? So because Netflix has the platform with subscribers subscribe to it, that gives you access to the markets of people that are on their platform. That's its own thing. Creating the content is a separate thing. Investing in the production of that content is a different business.
Interesting.
You get what I'm saying? So like Netflix will, like I'm telling you now, like if they came to South Africa and there were production companies already creating the stuff, okay, maybe now they might not be willing to buy it from them. But in the beginning, they would have said, yeah, put it on. Like we will
run me that shit.
They'll make a nice deal because at that point they're trying to build their catalog. So by the time they didn't have the money to invest into like these productions at that point. They've gotten so big to the point now where they do have the money to invest in those productions. And for them, it's much better for them to invest and own that production or that film, because then they're not paying a licensing fee and they can keep it on the platform for however long they want. But because they've created it, we're losing out on an opportunity to make money off of licensing fees.
Exactly.
If they had come here and we had already created the content and the demand for it through putting it on the platform in the beginning was there and the fandoms were built and people, had a relationship with the brands and they were wanting to support it, we would have a lot better of a position to negotiate a licensing fee first and foremost, which would have brought even more income into our country. But no one's really investing in the production of those content assets.
So you don't even have that leverage to go to them with a bomb-ass finished product because it costs so much to make it at that level. No one wants to.
The thing that I think is important that a lot of people also misinterpret is if you're talking to a Netflix, which is a business, they don't care how bomb-ass the video is. They want to know how many people want to watch it. And I think it's important to distinguish the two things.
Stress.
Yeah,
pain of my existence. That's not sure, man. Why did my heart rate just go up? My things are beep, 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 beep.
Talk about trauma. And I think it's very important to make that distinguishment because you can invest 100 million into a film and not anyone really wants to watch it.
Sure.
Or you could invest R1 million or, some of these YouTubers, how much did they invest? They just invested like their time, maybe.
YouTubers, which...
Bro, think about KSI, for example, right? KSI, when he first built his audience.
Or
like a bunch of TikTokers have not received any investments that have massive audiences.
Exactly.
The audience is the thing that's important. And the reason why I'm distinguishing, the ability to create an audience without money is because that's the thing that the business cares about. The attention. And we could say that you could create a really dope film that technically is like a masterpiece. But maybe it just wasn't made in the right time, or maybe the
marketing of it
wasn't great, or whatever. There's so many reasons. But if it doesn't get the attention, then you lose the leverage.
Exactly.
So,
and that's a tricky thing about it. It's something I've also had to realize. It's not really about quality it is to a certain level, and then it becomes not to another level.
But what kind of quality, right? Because you can have technical quality where it's shot in 8K and the lenses are amazing and the lighting is perfect, but the narrative quality or the relevance of it in this zeitgeist of what's happening right now in South Africa is just not relevant. So
I would even go as far as saying that you could have both good and it still doesn't land. I've
Okay.
seen things that are both culturally relevant and beautifully shot that haven't landed because of things regarding to genre or regarding to platform. So there's factors that go beyond even just what the product is that affect how the product is consumed. Like, the reason I believe in making more experimental genres and making it mainstream isn't because I want to be some kind of artsy-fartsy art house guy. I'm not trying to make sci-fi and African futurism for anything other than the fact that I enjoy the genre. I think it's so powerful to represent Africans in a way that is focused on our own future, whether it's utopian or dystopian, bad or good, but narrated by ourselves. And I firmly believe that the only reason that there isn't an ecosystem for genres like that is because it hasn't been made. And so I don't like, I understand why certain genres are made and why the telenovela medium is popular because of what you're saying. Like, they're not always the most technically sound things. You won't see the craziest cinematography. You won't be like, man, that was such an impactful dialogue. But they get the message across. People connect with the stories, they connect with the characters, and it pulls them into a story that brings millions of people in. And that's, to a person that is a business person, they're like, okay, I don't even need to watch this show. How much is 5 million people? Come sign here, baby girl. Sign right here, you know? But like, there's things where it's like, I believe that if the same amount of input was put or the same opportunity was given for people to see this thing, the same way that this thing has been shown, that people would be like, oh, I like that. This in the same way. And I think we've just minimized what, and I know this is somewhat a sidetrack, but I feel like we've minimized what us, the audience, can enjoy by looking at what they already do enjoy. You know, it's like giving a child an apple and saying the kid loves an apple when the kid has never tasted a watermelon before. And then they taste the watermelon and they're like, "Ugh!" You know? And I believe we're in that industry where it's like, if we could just taste that watermelon and maybe that peach over there and like that pineapple, oh, we would have a fruit salad, not just one thing, you know? So I think I agree with you, but I also think that it comes from a safety mentality that a lot of corporates express, where it has to be a fundamentalized environment. It has to be a pre-established IP or pre-established viewership. And so then that becomes my battle of like creating an audience and building people who want to see it and connecting with other filmmakers like Cishi and who have an audience as well there and that want to explore with him, which has been really interesting to see it through his music. And so that's kind of where it becomes like this crock pot, this stew that has to become like a thing. And so, you know, if it flops, it flops. And then you can go back to the market and say, yeah, people don't actually like that over there. And then it's like, okay, cool, I tried it. But
you have to try.
And if it lands, if it lands, bro.
Yeah.
You know, I'm willing to take that gamble.
Dude, as you were talking, I was literally thinking of times you told me you have an addictive personality.
I was having a conversation with someone recently. It's like certain things I shouldn't do. I gamble enough with my life. I shouldn't gamble in the casino.
Rather gamble with that than like in the casino.
Oh yeah,
like,
you're right. I thought you were saying rather gamble in casinos.
No.
Yeah, but even then, it's not really a gamble. It's more like a competitive intensity.
Yeah.
So, and that intensity goes to gambling, where it's like, I can win this thing, bro. And then that's how they get your mortgage. How they get your mortgage. And you, so, yeah. But I think that very same mentality applies here, and I've decided to channel it here instead of gambling. Even though I'm very good at poker, so. But that's different to gambling, I feel. It's a different story. That's more competitive. Yeah. No, it's also like it's me versus you. It's not really you versus like the house where there's the odds are not in my favor. Statistically, poker, I have better chances because I can be a better player. It's actually skill based.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, to not deviate back to deviate back to the topic. I think that, yeah.
Look, Africa, I don't think we realize how much money we have. Like, I think South Africa is a rich country. If you consider like the size of South Africa and the wealth that we have, I do think we are not like we have a starting point, which is very similar to going back to South Korea. If you go look in history and you look at where South Korea was 15, 30 years ago, like, and where they are now, you'll see how we have a similar starting point, just in terms of the size of our economy, but also our population size. So the point I'm trying to drive home here is, I think because we've had money so mismanaged for our entire lives, like our entire lives, it's been mismanaged. So we don't know what it looks like when money is actually being put in the right places.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of sort of, as young people, we kind of assume that there's no money here, when they're actually probably logically thinking there probably is more than what we think there is.
Just leaking.
Just going to the wrong places.
Yeah.
It's going to someone's Lambo. Like that Lambo is a film. Do you think
That film for 60 people could be employed from that.
more? Yeah.
Stupid.
Hectic. But to be honest, I don't think
Disgusting.
we're angry enough as young South Africans. Like,
I think we've gotten used to it.
we have. That's exactly the point I'm driving home.
Should we revolt?
What do you mean by that?
I don't know if I
See,
can
that's
say
the
any of
thing.
this stuff on camera.
So I think we should try and revolt legally.
Yes.
And if that doesn't work, then we have no other option. So, like, for
What's legal
example,
revolt?
voting.
But what difference is that going to make?
We don't know because we haven't put someone else
Someone
in.
else. That's fair. I mean, like, voting hasn't led to more accountability. And I
It
don't think
hasn't, because we
employing...
haven't reached a critical mass in voting.
What does that mean for voting, though?
It means that we haven't removed the ruling party and given someone else a chance. So we don't know what they would do.
Yeah. But who?
That's the question.
That's the question.
But, like, okay, but who? That is the question. At this point, anyone. Like, because we know what does, like,
know what
knowing
doesn't
what
work.
doesn't work is a good thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, okay, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
So it pushes you to try something else.
Yeah.
And just like you were saying with the fruits, you have to try different fruits until you know which one you like.
You're right. You're right. Yeah. I wonder what the next fruit's going to be.
So, like, when you say revolt,
Gosh.
like, I don't think we need to burn stuff. I don't think we need to, like, break the system.
The bridge.
If we do try and reach critical mass with these things and there's stuff that blocks that,
Isn't
then
that
that's a
when
different
we've been
conversation.
getting blocked? You don't think we've
I
tried
don't think we can
to
say
oppose
that
yet?
though.
You don't think state capture and all of these economic things that have affected the grander scheme of even people's foundational education isn't a hindrance of our own critical mass for a long enough time for us to maybe do something a little more serious?
If we had more than like 30% youth participating in elections, my opinion would differ.
Okay, that's fair. I'll take that point. There's actually no argument to that.
Because literally, like, you can't say we as a group have done enough to shift the needle.
If we haven't even voted.
And I'm telling you now, like, it's way easier to go and, like, vote than to, like, stage a revolution, bro.
Yeah.
Like, and the cost is so much
You
less.
said 70%
Like,
of
people
the
have to
youth
die
didn't vote.
for that. Huh?
You said 70% of the youth didn't vote.
Don't quote me on the stats.
Okay.
I might be wrong. We can look it up, yeah.
It's probably more than half, though.
Yeah. But
Oaks.
all I know is it's less. Yeah, it's less than half for sure.
Crazy.
So I don't know, bro. I think in the same light, it's also kind of like we do also need to take accountability that we kind of chosen this for ourselves.
Yeah.
To a degree, okay.
It's that
Like,
same...
we only reached voting age like a certain amount of years ago.
Yeah. Recently. Last year.
So, like, but the longer you've been at that age, the more accountability you have to take, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I guess it's that circular thing again of like being pulled back and pushed by the same thing. Like the question of, are you held back by not having money, or have you taken yourself to critical mass and then the money takes you further?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Both of those things are important. Like, both are important, not one or the other. You need both.
Paradox.
It is a paradox.
I think everything is paradoxical in this life that we live.
But I don't think it's impossible to make a change.
Sure.
Which is why we need to try.
Yeah. Trying. But harder.
Yeah. And, like, also just to kind of, like, I know you said that you had like a difficult year, but like being someone who has watched your trajectory and your journey, like you've broken through like a lot of ceilings that other people are trying to break through, which is why you have a lot of people that like follow your work and like supports what you do. Um, and I think despite, not having gotten to that big ceiling that you're trying to reach and breaking through that one which is your next one, there'll always be another one as well,
Yeah.
honest with you. Like you'll shoot at some point a massive film and then you'll be like, okay, cool, now I want to do the next thing. So like the thing that you're hitting now, unfortunately, I'm sorry to tell you, this is probably going to be
Stereotypical
something
life.
forever.
Damn it. I guess it's about shifting the paradigm, I guess.
Maybe, yeah. But in the same breath, it's like you've also cracked a lot of codes.
Mm.
So like, and I think one thing that we've been talking about now is like, we've been talking a lot about the monetary resource, but you mentioned human capital, and you've spoken about this in previous episode as well. Like, what other resources have you been able to identify and how did you effectively utilize them to get where you are now?
I think like social capital. I think social media has been a big thing that I've utilized to get to where I am, but also individual personal capital. Like the short film that I shot recently all came from so many years of just meeting people and asking them questions about what they want to do and like just planting the seed and be like, one day, bro, I'm going to ask you for this thing and it's going to be cool. Are you down? They're like, yeah, of course, and just like finding those people. And I think that's another part of it that I think is so important, but also that social media has helped me. So in the same way, I've met and I connected with a lot of filmmakers and a lot of cool people that are doing cool things. I've met a lot of young filmmakers also who are just like, yo, I just want to meet people who are doing stuff I want to do. And I'm like, pull up, come to the set, come join this or that, So meeting those people has been really cool as an experience as well, because it's like realizing that like everyone is just trying, like in every state, like everyone is just trying. And yeah, I don't know.
That
It's
brings me
just
to
such
my next question though. Like, did you find them or did they find you?
a bit of both. A lot of people I reached out to, and a lot of people reached out to me. And, a lot of things, like, there's a little bit of, like, I would put out a thing and be like, I'm looking for some people who want to do a thing. And then someone will be like, me. Be like, cool. Or I'll reach out, someone will individually be like, hey, I want to get into directing. I don't know how. I'm studying law. I'm studying psychology. I'm studying film. I'm studying it after. I want to get on set more. I'm like, cool. Doesn't matter what you're doing. What you're trying to do is pull up. And so it's been a little bit of a push and a pull for both ways. But I'm grateful because I feel like I'm amassing like a big group of like, even if it's 100 people or 200 people who are like down for the cause, and seeing how those people become like part of the team has been an exciting journey. And it's tricky because it's like, when you don't have much to give to people who are looking for so much from you because they also don't have anything, it's hard to I feel an innate responsibility then for when people come to me and they're like, hey, I want to do this. And I'm like, I know what that feels like. And I know how hard it was for me to get here. So I want to make maybe that step, 2 steps, 3 steps easier for you. And I guess that's my whole motive behind a lot of why I involve a lot of young filmmakers and a lot of friends and a lot of people who are like a few years younger than me who want to make films as well. Because it's like, it's so hard. And I think if everyone is just like, I want to create a culture that if I do that and the 5 bros that came up with me or under me, they do that for 5 people each, eventually we have such a big succession machine where people are actually like building academies, building programs, working with people. And I think that I want to be that involved in that, and I think other people want to also. And as discouraging as the economy feels and like all of this thing and there's no money, whatever, there's people. And I think when we remember how important this whole thing is, it's just about connecting with people. And that's the thing that's made this year better for me as well. Because, that sobering idea of like, get out of your self-centered, ambition and the ego of being this person and, be in these moments where you can actually like be a creative with people who want to be a creative. And that's life, that's such a cool, beautiful thing. And I think my perspective has changed. I'm still as ambitious and I'm still as driven, but I think now I refuse to do anything I'm not having fun with, and I refuse to do anything that I'm not with people who I enjoy or care about. Like, the job's are already so hard that I'm like, I'm not hiring you if you're the best art director, but you're the most horrible person and we're going to have a headache because the job is hard enough. You know, like if I'm not doing this with my boys, I want to be doing it with people who could turn into my boys. And if you're not then either of those categories, I'm not trying to work with you. I don't care how good you are, you know, and could be limiting in the talent thing, but it's just so marginal and people are just so talented already. And like, I think it takes so much more effort to be a nice person and to be a good person than it is to let your insecurities or let your past or let how you feel about the world consume you so that you affect people badly. I think it's much more difficult to be a good person and respectful. And so when you are that person, I appreciate that kind of person, that kind of efforts to being not a gut person. 'Cause it's easier to being just to be swag and screw people over and make money. You know, that's how everything has happened. So if you could just go on that, go with the flow of that, that could be cool. But like, yeah. So that's me. That's the ecosystem I'm trying to build and the people I'm trying to work with and encourage. And like, I don't even care anymore about being this biggest filmmaker ever. I just want to make the things I want to make with the people I care about and just get it out to as many people as possible. And whatever happens from there, if I had fun doing it, if it was an experience that I enjoyed, even if it was difficult, because I'm not saying I want an easy experience. I just want an experience that I enjoy. And that becomes the main thing. So outside of like talking about leveraging social capital and like how to take the next step, I just think that like life is just so beautiful and it's just too short to be so focused on only that part of it and only the finances part of it and focusing more on like who the people are. And I've met some lovely people that I'm like, man, I'm so happy that I met you. Like even if we don't work together ever again or nothing comes of this thing we've done, this interaction, I won't forget it. And that's a beautiful thing that I value much more now.
Yeah, sounds like you value the experience of it all.
Yeah,
Would you say that changed from last year to this year?
I think it did. Just
Yeah.
because I realized that you're not going to get to the money part for a long time. So if the experience is fun enough for you to survive getting there, then you'll get there eventually. But if it's about in creating the most beautiful, fun, safe experience on set, you leave that place with intrinsic value that goes beyond whatever the movie might do financially. And I think that's, to me, something I've learned to be much more valuable. And I find it's like such a compliment when people are like these pros, bro, like pros who have worked on huge sets. Like, man, this has been like one of the best sets I've been on. I'm like, what? Because they just had fun, very professional. We all got the job done and it looked beautiful, but it's like winning together. Like, you know, when you win with people and you're having fun, like, you know, when you can tell a football team's having fun, Barca 08 or 2012, 2010, tiki taka around the whole thing. They're just playing around, you know, and you can tell they're having fun winning. And that's the kind of space that I want to create. Because then when we win Champions League, it's just like, oh, we had fun. And then what? We won Champions League. Ah, cool. And the Oscar goes to, shout out to you guys, you know. And that's not like, I don't care about that. Be nice, but I
Not what
think
matters anymore.
it matters a little bit. It's hard to like lie and say like, oh, I don't ever want it. But I think it matters less than it used to for me. The more I've realized how much of a fallacy and how like fake it all is and how much it's actually like all of this is all a mirage. The movie making industry itself is a movie. So it's like you think the thing that's making the movie is also fake. You're like, all of this is just a smokescreen. So how do I just have fun with the things that are real, which is this?
Yeah. Yo, that's so dope, bro. Like relationships make it worth it.
Yeah,
And I remember you spoke about how you would send out emails and that's how you'd reach a lot of people.
yeah.
Are there like other ways that you found people? Was it beyond that?
Other than social media, no.
Oh, really?
No. Linked, I mean, do you consider LinkedIn like a different way to that?
I, I was thinking more so there's no offline way that you met people.
Not unless I'm in the mix. I've only met people offline.
What do you mean by being in the mix?
I have to go on sets to meet someone who I'll know from sets.
Okay.
I have to be invited to a party by someone who was in that thing with that person for me to meet them. Like, it's not like a
Through
just like
someone.
walk through, you know, or like recommendations, sure. But a lot of connections, they either have to be organically or they generally have to be kind of organic. That's why like most of the guys I worked with now on this last job are all like they were PAs, assistants, the camera trainees, first ACs on the shows that I came up being a director's assistant on, and now we're HODs here. And I'm like, that's what the point was, you know? So, but outside of that, I wouldn't have met half of that crew, if not all of them, if I didn't do that show that put me in the mix. So that's why I'm so intentional about come to sets, because maybe I bring two assistants on and they turn into like a writer duo, or this guy camera, this guy director, they go shoot a film over there. How can I help? And now I'm producing this. Now it's a whole thing, you know, and becomes this ecosystem. So, but yeah, that's why I say like being in mix is important. And that's why I want it to be easier for people to be able to get on set so that they can find those people to also.
But you also kind of have to be a person
Yeah.
who thrives on set
Yeah.
too.
That's
Does
the
it
tough
work?
thing about it. That
How do you be that person?
I think it because like I've met introverts that have been somewhat extroverted or like been on set. It's almost like you've got to like play the role to some extent, like in a way, because it's such a social medium. Like if you're at the bottom of the food chain and you want to make it up, you have to be at least open to asking someone a question, having a conversation with someone to be seen or recognized. If you can't, then it's like it's a challenge just for yourself, you know. But I think if you're not the kind of person that likes social interactions, it's already a hard job to be in. Like, I wouldn't recommend it as a career, you know, and maybe like go and be a writer. But even then, we don't have an established writing industry here. So
But
it's that same circular.
is it just the social elements, or is there other elements as well?
What are the elements?
So you're saying that you need to speak and build relationships.
No, you have to just be there,
Oh, just being present.
being present, and being present also. It's hard to not be a person that can, like, and obviously introversion and extroversion is spectral, but if you aren't the kind of person that can go up to a complete stranger and strike up a conversation with them, that at the bare minimum is what you need. And if you can't do that, then it's going to be challenging for you, because you have to be, most things happen if you ask.
How do you be that person? Like, do you think it's just something you're born with, or do you think it's a choice? I guess we're going back to the beginning of this conversation.
I guess it's I don't know. Some people grow out of it. I have a friend of mine. Her name is Robin Blessy. Shout out Robin. She's a model, and we started out coming up together, bro. Oh yeah, you do know Rob. So Rob was so introverted, bro. She was so introverted. She couldn't speak to people like very confidently. But I've never seen somebody intentionally attack that thing. She said that like, and I was so proud, and I was like, I hope this isn't like an overshare, but it's just a beautiful thing, because she was like, she walks on the streets and she makes an active effort to look at people in the eyes as she walks past them. And that changed everything, because that was the first thing. Now you can go and speak to people. You can smile at someone earlier, you know? And I was just like, it's so cool to see that intention of someone who wants to grow in their own skin, you know, and kind of like be in a space where it's like, yeah, I can actually feel confident. Now she's like a butterfly, you know, she can thrive in pretty much any, I've seen her like just like operate rooms and just be like the most charismatic person. And that took effort from herself, you know. The same way, I think there's people who I feel like are extroverted and have been hyper extroverted to a point where they can't read a room. They can't stop talking. They can't stop yapping. And that person has to learn, let me give this person a chance to speak. Let me ask, what about you? You know, let me actually like stop speaking for a second. And that takes intention as well. So I think it's those pushing and pulling, and like it's that building. I have had to learn a lot of ways of that. I've been a very loud kid, and then I've been a bit quiet, and I've been charismatic. And then like, unfortunately for me, speaking to people is a natural thing that I'm good at, just because of how I grew up in high school. A friend of mine, Cassie, we used to compete with how many parents we can be friends with and see who had the most loved parent kid at school. Yeah, bro. We call it parent game. And just that, you learn how to
Parent games.
Yeah, I have to go and talk to someone's mom and just make this mom love me. So, like when we'd wrap school, bro, her and I would just be in the parking lot operating. Like, hey, Auntie Cheryl, how are you? Oh, Auntie Togo, it's good to see you so much. How are you doing? Oh, how's you know? And that for me, I can physically pinpoint as a thing that brought me out of my skin. That, as well as my brother forcing me to speak to girls because I don't like speaking to girls. So I think a lot of it is effort, and you don't have to be naturally comfortable with it, but I think it's a muscle and it should be considered to be a tool where even if it's not naturally your best suit, you should be able to just switch on something to be able to go, okay, cool. I'm here in this room now. This is how I need to operate. This is how I need to dial in. I'll go home and I'll unwind and, but I think that's just maturing and knowing that in life, there's rooms you have to read. There's certain rooms where I have to be quiet. Certain rooms where I need to be the person speaking the most. Otherwise, no one's speaking and we will sink. So, those ones are like, okay, guys, come here. Okay, well, this is what we're doing. Rest.
Crazy. And then now over the next year, what do you hope to see from the next year?
For me, because of this, the film that I'm working on now, we'll have a separate podcast talk about that one specifically. Stay tuned, guys, for the news bagger.
Give us a sneak peek. Tell us. It's a short film.
It's a short film. Yeah. It's a sci-fi. It's an Afro-futurist short film action thriller about a young survivor of an attack, and he has to find his way to survive in the midst of being surrounded.
And what was the budget for this film?
The budget was nothing, but then we had to go and find people and pull it out of the air and take savings. It was about like 60K.
Okay.
Maybe 70.
That's not nothing.
That's not nothing, but it was nothing in the sense that it wasn't like a grant. It was like fundraised from asking people and savings and
crazy.
Don't invite me out for like a month.
Did you do like a GoFundMe or?
No, individual, went to people and I was like, yo, I need this much money. What are you doing?
Crazy.
I need this much. What are you doing? I need this much. What do you think? People who have had conversations about investing, and so then I'd pitch them the idea and be like, this is what I want to do. I want to just make this short film and we want to take it to festivals so that I can pitch for a bigger feature film version in this same world and make that feature film. And they're like, I call, I'll invest. I was like,
sure. Didn't come to me, bro.
Yeah?
Antash didn't come to me.
Brother, but the conversations we've had about finances, are you sure?
No, give what you can, Even
you're right. I should have asked.
It's still something,
We have a festival submissions coming up. We need 14,000 Rand. So
okay.
If anyone would like to sponsor our festival submissions for 14,000 Rand, let me know at Abo Booi on Instagram.
These nice feet pics.
You know what kind of pics we say.
Oh, okay.
No, you brought it up. Don't make this. You brought it up. You made it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Hey, anyways.
Hectic. All right, bro. I'm wishing you all the best and keep an eye out for the short film. It's coming out soon. And yeah, thank you so much for chatting with us today, bro.
Thank you so much for having me, bro. It's always such a pleasure to shoot to the C.Cast. Make sure that you guys subscribe to the C.Cast, subscribe to the channel right now. Hit that like button on this video and then follow them at home, their social medias, as well as me on my social media at Abo Booi, as well as my production company, Artistic Intent, spelled ARTISTICIETENT, Artistic Intent. You'll hear more about the short film when I'm back on the C.Cast with more. I'll be able to share some BTS. We'll show you some trailers, some really interesting stuff as to how we made this thing happen and as to why we want to make this go international. So stay tuned. Josh, thank you for having me.
My sister was the one that actually forced me, my twin sister, in case you didn't know.
You have a twin?
Yeah. And then she said, if you keep posting now, by the end of December, you'll have 10K followers. And then that's when I started creating this world of different skits, different scenarios. At the end of the year, I think I had around 30,000 followers. That's when the momentum started to build and say, okay, you know what? I think this is it.
Today's plate is comedy with real creator sauce. Our guest is Dr. Cabbage.
I decided, you know what, let me focus on this content creation. It might be more successful than me getting an entry-level job. That happened before I even finished school. Why should someone else be what determines my success?
South African digital creator, writer, actor, editor, and proud SDA whose skits celebrate African pride with clean, clever humor.
This is the first time I'm seeing this on camera. This shocks people all the time in Zimbabwe. The lack of knowledge is what's going to kill my people. Can somebody bring some tissues, please? Tissues before a nigga starts crying.
We're cooking on craft, faith, and a long game career.
We've been given a chance to change our lives, all of us. They don't know Uguti, they have so much power to change their situation. There's people who are living the life that my family, I believe, should be living. How did they do it? That's where it starts.
Let's cook.
Let's cook.